on Instagram, and also here on YouTube. And we're going to go through something which has cropped up a few times. In fact, there was a client of mine, and this might sound a little bit like you, that when you go out, you're worried that if you miss some meals or you go out for too long, you feel like you're going to get hungry, you're going to crash, and you're going to just have blood, brain fog, you're going to be hangry. You just need to take food out every time that you eat. Also, she was actually bloating up randomly. So what would happen was there was no rhyme or reason as to which foods were making her bloat up. And as a result, it was getting super frustrating as to why were these things happening? Why was she bloating up every time she ate different foods? It wasn't like she ate bread and she bloated up, one of the things, but also strawberries, also oranges, and a couple of different bits of meat, like chicken, she was bloating up. And we looked deeper into these actual foods and what was going on. And she'd had a family history of thyroid problems. In fact, she'd been told by her doctor that her thyroid was not low, but it was kind of on the low side. And this is one of the frustrations I have with Western medicine, is that we have this low marker for a test. We have this high marker for a test. And if you are here, like literally just above the low or just below the high, you're deemed as okay. But the doctor said you're on the low part of normal, which basically is telling me that her thyroid was not functioning effectively. And what happens is that we need to look at the reasons for it not firing up effectively, because 99 times out of 100, it's not the thyroid gland that is the problem. It is not. That is something which I've seen after being in this industry for 14 years, working with many, many clients from over 23 different countries along that way. And this lady, what we've done, we took out some certain foods and her energy started picking up almost instantly. So it told me that some of those foods were giving an immune reaction to the body. Now, one of the things that happens sometimes when we take out certain foods is that these foods give an adrenaline rush when we have them, even though our body isn't actually liking having them. So when we take them out, we end up at the point where we crave them even more. So I said this to her, made her aware of this, and she was okay. So things like grains, wheat, processed foods, stimulants, things like fruits and stuff, when we replaced them, put her diet with basically good proteins, some fats, and some fibrous green vegetables. And her sleep improved almost instantly. Now, she'd been having sleep problems for over 20 years, going to the doctors, getting prescribed Zopiclone and different sleeping pills, having all these over-the-counter remedies and all these things. Nothing was really working. So we went onto this diet side of things. Now, what was actually going on was she had very poor blood glucose management, which is actually at the foundation of all the clients that I work with, is to say, we want good blood glucose management. I don't believe you can have really high levels of health unless you have good blood glucose management. It's responsible for so many different things. When we have high carbohydrate foods, or when we have foods, processed foods, what happens is our pancreas has to pump insulin into the bloodstream to grab hold of those sugars, to grab hold of that glucose, to then take it where it's needed, to the cells or storage sites. And when this happens too much, we have a problem where the pancreas puts too much insulin out and the blood sugar levels go too low because it's basically grabbed up too much. And then what happens there is that our adrenals are needed to back this up, and they kick up cortisol levels. So we can see already where problems with our blood glucose going up and down, every time it goes down, we kick out our adrenals, kicking out cortisol, because one of the functions of cortisol is to boost our blood sugar levels. And that is not going to be a good thing over time. Once or twice, yes, fair enough. But if you've got poor blood glucose management and you're going through all these different symptoms, you're struggling with your focus, struggling with your energy, struggling with weight loss, a carbohydrate meal on its own is not going to be a very good thing for you. And we need to look at managing that. And one of the things that the lady actually who I was working with, or am working with, we took out cereal for her breakfast. And this is a very common thing for people, that having cereal for breakfast is one of the worst ways to start your day. or carbohydrates for breakfast is one of the worst ways to start your day, because people's blood glucose management is not managed well enough to have this carbohydrate only meal. Throws people off. Then we have stimulants. You have your coffee pick me up, throws you off again, which then leads to this dip mid-afternoon where we need this other pick me up, and so on. The cycle continues. Now, every time this happens, that we have problems with our blood glucose, whether it's high or whether it's low, that our digestive health our digestive health gets worse. Our hormonal balance gets worse. Our immune function and even things like our thyroid function will take a hit. And one of the problems that we have is that it is very, very common for people right now to have poor blood glucose management. I would say most clients that I work with have poor blood glucose management. When people come to me, it's very rare that a client is actually sleeping all the way through the night. Waking through the night, chances are there's poor blood glucose management. Most of this is down to stress management and your diet, unless you have an underlying autoimmune condition, which is the thing which is potentially throwing your blood glucose levels out of place. And as we say, it weakens your digestive tract and inflames your digestive tract. You're not going to uptake as many nutrients that way. Your immune barriers of your gut, your brain, your lungs are all going to be weakened. It makes your adrenals kind of get exhausted because they're overworking. Your hormones get imbalanced and you clog up your detox pathways and just slows down your metabolism, which is not a good thing if you want to be dropping weight and getting your energy up. Now, it will actually also impact your brain function. Now, your brain primarily fuels off glucose. So if we're going up and down, we're going to have to release that cortisol to boost our blood sugar levels to keep our brain functioning effectively. So you're going to find that if you've got poor blood glucose management, you're going to have energy dips in the afternoon. And that's something where we want to look at. And you're going to have problems sleeping, which again is something which we want to look at. You're going to find that you space out a lot. You find yourself just like looking around the room, or you go downstairs to get something and you think, what the fuck did I actually come down here to get? Because I cannot remember. So you go back upstairs, try and retrace your steps, and then you just get more and more frustrated. You just have very poor short-term memory. You get very hangry if you go without food, and you're very, very prone to crashing throughout the day. Now, what a lot of people have is reactive hyperglycemia. We can have straight off hyperglycemia where they go low blood sugar and it's just constantly low. We need to work on that a different way. But most people are going to have either reactive hyperglycemia or insulin resistance. And what happens here is that with reactive hyperglycemia is that we have drops in blood sugar levels after eating. And to actually tell the difference with this, I get clients to end up doing a blood sugar levels test, glucometer, do it first thing in the morning, before any stimulants, before any food, only drinking water. You see where your blood glucose levels are at. Now, we want it to be between like 4.2 and 4.9 or 80 or 90 if you're in the US, because like underneath this level, you're going to be hypoglycemic. Over like around 100 and up, you're looking at insulin resistance. And if you're over 110, that's where we have to look a little deeper into things like metabolic syndrome. You're very close to being diabetic. And it's not something which we want to really kind of let happen. We want to make sure that your body is able to function enough to not get to that state of being diabetic. Now, one of the frustrations I have, again, with the Western world is that a lot of times the doctors will wait until you are at that point of, they say the point of no return. You can still come back potentially, depending on how far you've gone, but the doctors wait until you are so far gone that they then give you medication rather than actually looking at your lifestyle factors. So if you constantly miss meals and you're having problems, like you have to eat foods that are high in sugar, you need caffeine to function, you crave sweets and salty foods throughout the day, and when you're fatigued, you use them as a pick-me-up. You have a hard time getting up in the morning, you get very lightheaded if you miss your meals, and you can't sleep through the night. And even when you go to bed, when you felt tired throughout the day, you're just wired when you get to bed at nighttime. So you cannot get to sleep. You feel very lethargic. You get random headaches and they're really annoying. Like throb on your head. Eating gives you energy. This is one of the things which a lot of people think that should be the case, but it's not. When we eat, we should be able to know when we are hungry, when we feel hungry. But we should not be at a point where when we eat, it should not change our mental state. It should not give you loads of energy or make you feel low or feel energized. It should literally keep you steady. Food is there. Yes, it gives you energy in the form of calories, but food should literally be keeping your mood steady. You should not change your state when you eat. Another symptom is that you get very agitated or anxious, or you're upset very easily. Poor memory, as we mentioned, you're very forgetful, and things like brain fog. Now, these can be caused by poor diet, adrenal fatigue, different side effects of immune drugs, and loads of different things that are going on. But one of the things that could be causing a lot of problems, especially if you're one of the many, many people, in fact, someone said earlier, and I need to look into how true it is that the most prescribed drug in the US, I need to look in the UK as well, one of the most prescribed drugs or treatments for drugs out there is thyroid function. And this can very much lead to problems with your thyroid. So if you're struggling to lose weight, struggling with energy, you're probably going to want, no, you're definitely going to want to look at your blood glucose management. And what actually could be going on here is that your pituitary gland could be very, very sluggish and burnt out, which is actually causing the problems with your thyroid. Now, your pituitary gland is located in your brain, and it is a signaler for hormones. Now, we have these different HP axes. So we have like your hypothalamus signals to your pituitary, which then signals to your adrenals to say, we need this to be released and this to go there and so on. But those messages get mixed up when we overwork them and stress them out. So your HPT axis, the hypothalamus to the pituitary to your thyroid, that signal, that message gets messed around and very confusing. And then every single time we have poor blood glucose management, every time our blood glucose goes high or low, we stress out our adrenal functions, and that then slows down the pituitary function. And it's kind of a vicious circle, as you can probably see, that your metabolism suffers, your thyroid suffers as a result. Now, on the other hand, we have the hyperglycemia. We have or reactive hyperglycemia, where your blood sugars are low. Now, if you are looking at, you are that person that is hyperglycemic, you're not going to want to fast, because that's just going to stress you out a lot and you're going to release more cortisol. There's going to be more and more problems. And then on the other hand, we have insulin resistance, where your blood sugars are high. Now, on both cases, the treatment is going to be very similar, where we want to have consistent, good quality meals throughout the day. Not in a bro science, you're eating to spark your metabolism or any of that rubbish, eating to keep your blood sugars managed. We have insulin resistance. And insulin resistance is going to have similar side effects, things like needing a nap after a meal, or eating carbs, then suddenly feeling tired, or you feel bad if you don't get sugar after a meal, or you're hungry even after you've had big meals. You get insomnia, you struggle with stomach fat, even times where women will go bald or get really thinning hair, but then get facial hair. And men, you have men have struggles with breast growth, hip growth, probably got thyroid problems. You struggle with cravings of sweets, your waist larger than your hips. You need to toilet regularly, and you have difficulty losing weight. I think I've repeated a couple of things in there. So what is worse is that if you leave this, if you've got any of those symptoms, what is worse is that it's just going to get worse, to that point where if it's a thyroid problem, that the doctors are going to prescribe you some thyroxine or whatever it is, when that is not the thing that is causing it. It is actually the outcome. So in regards to the thyroid, having a signal from the pituitary, which is burnt out because of the poor blood glucose management and your adrenals firing up, we need to look at that root cause, which is going to be blood glucose management. And you can focus on those symptoms as much as you want. You can focus on the outcome as much as you want, the thyroid being lower in function, or whatever part it is you're focusing on. You can get medications to help with those symptoms, but they will not help you with that underlying cause. So we could artificially help your thyroid function by putting exogenous thyroid function in there. But we are going to make that thyroid function worse by doing so, when it's not even the thyroid gland that is the problem in the first place most of the time. Remember, this is not medical advice. I have to speak to people on a one-to-one basis to look at diagnosis. I'm just saying what I've found working with loads and loads of people over the last, over a decade, 14 years, as I've said, which makes me seem really old. What we look to do, we check the blood glucose levels. We have those fasted blood glucose, as I said, 4.2 to 4.9. If you're not between those when you wake up, we need to look at what is actually going on. We check what's going on around your food. And if you can balance these levels, you're not going to need all these different medications, crazy medications, or doctors to tell you you are never going to be fixed or any of that stuff. If we can balance these levels, we can manage stress. Now, what I like to do is it will be a little bit restrictive when we start going. It's not one of these people, I'm not going to BS you like a lot of people do, especially in the fitness world. Remember, this is health coaching, not fitness coaching, not personal training or any of that. It's not oh, you can lose weight eating whatever you like. No, eating whatever you like added to the stress in your life has got you into this position. So there will be a time whilst we balance your blood sugar levels that we have to be a little bit restrictive. It's not good for marketing for me to say that, but it is the 100% truth. We usually have to take things away in order to add more into your life, whether that's energy, balancing your blood glucose levels, getting good consistency. Yes, if your body is not in a position where it hasn't been, if your body is in a position where it hasn't been through much stress, simply calories in, calories out will work. But most of the time, when you get into your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, you've been through some stress. You've been through potential trauma, PTSD. There's a lot of things people have been through which have impacted their life right up until now. And this is where I look deeper into what has someone been through? What happened in their teens? What happened in their 20s? Was there a parasite? Was there an infection that didn't get cleared up? What has actually been going on? How was their relationship? Where is their mental state? All these things we need to look at, which will help us then balance blood sugar levels. Because we can keep going to if you're one of these people that has been through stress, what is actually going to go into the gym 5, 6, 7 times a week, smashing it out with spin class, followed by legs, bums and tum, followed by another class, followed by combat and all these other things. What is them 2-hour lessons going to actually do? Followed by a massive calorie deficit. They're just going to add more stress onto your body. And the stress is one of the things which has actually caused the problems that you're having. So it's a vicious circle. Yes, mathematics, simple mathematics say that if we eat less than we actually put in, we're going to lose weight. Yes, but you're going to have more chance of falling off, cause more inflammation in the body. We need to attack this strategically, balance those blood sugar levels. And then once I get a client to a place where they have zero cravings for sugar, or they have zero change in energy when eating, we can then move to the next stages of stress management and then get them to the point where they're actually going to be doing some good quality exercise, not overwork, and managing heart rate variability, and weight loss then becomes super, super easy. So if you've actually enjoyed this, pop a comment down the bottom that let me know that it's been helpful for you. It would be very, very helpful. If there's any questions you have, drop them down there. Or if you want to talk further, to look at one-to-one coaching with myself, if you've had problems with your thyroid, your pituitary, things like struggling with weight loss or any of these things, drop me a message and we can get on a call and just to see whether it's the right fit for me and you to work together to improve your health and get you living a life that you really, really, truly deserve. Thank you for watching.